Behind the Shades.
Hello, Natalie. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. It's a rainy Saturday, but we had good weather earlier in the week. And I know when we spoke, you're having phenomenal weather now, right?
We are. We weren't previously, but we are now. So fingers crossed it stays.
Fingers and toes crossed for you.
Yeah.
So let me know, what is it like when there's good weather where you are? What's something that you like to do immediately as soon as you see the sun out?
Honestly, I love to get out for a walk. I am totally into I just think it's a great way to get your mindset for the day. I love to listen to podcasts, so it's a great way for me to like habit stack some good walking with a podcast, and it sets my day up. So that's basically the first thing I love to do. Get out of bed and put my shoes on and go for a walk.
Perfect. That's what I do when I have to go to the doctors because my doctor's office used to be in another city. So you
Oh,
couldn't walk, right? So I recently changed my doctor because I was thinking, what if there's an emergency and I
wow.
can't get in my car, right? So
Yeah.
I changed it to walking distance, and I used to walk there all the time, but I didn't walk on the main street. I would actually go through the neighborhood, so it's a little bit longer.
Okay.
And I would enjoy that walk so much because it put me in a situation where I'm like, I get to meet my neighbors who aren't technically my neighbors because they're in the neighborhood next to me, right? And I'm the type of person I say hi to everyone. Even if you give me a dirty look, I don't care. I'm still saying hi. I'm that
Positive
person, right?
vibes, a lot of positive vibes all around.
Absolutely. So, they they probably see me coming. They're like, "Oh my god, there's that overly happily man," and they just close their doors and run away. But I don't care because I'm happy. Life
No,
is good.
right. Life's too short to be miserable, right?
Absolutely. So I know we're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about a little bit about you because I want to get to know you, as well as nutrition and mindset for women over 40, right?
Yep, that's my jam.
Perfect, perfect. Just so everyone knows, I actually mistakenly mentioned what she's going to talk about earlier today, but thank God that wasn't recorded. So I do apologize.
Yeah, I would be like, oh, I would have gone with it though.
Fake it till you make it, as they say, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Perfect. So let's officially begin. Why don't you introduce yourself, Natalie? Tell us a little bit about who you are and where my audience can find a lovely guest like yourself.
Sure. So my name is Natalie Beck, and I am married. I have two children, Mia and Jake. My daughter is 19, so she's a sophomore at Penn State. And my son is 15, so he started high school this year. So that was a challenge. So I had one out of the house and one still in the house. And I actually am a nutrition consultant. So I'm certified nutritionist, and I work with women, like you said, over the age of 40, and really helping them craft their wellness plans, their weight loss plans, getting them in the right mindset for weight loss and navigating the challenges of their life with the crazy hormonal shifts that go on after the age of 40.
So perfect. So why women, not that I'm complaining, but why women over 40?
I think, really it starts probably younger than 40. It probably starts, the later end of 30. But as we start to get into our late 30s and into our 40s, and we start to have these hormonal shifts, and really what happens is we start to lose muscle mass rapidly, and our metabolism starts to decline. And then as our metabolism starts to decline, we're not changing our habits. We're kind of back to what we used to do when we were in our 20s or in our early 30s. Then all of a sudden the weight starts to creep up like out of nowhere. And, our confidence kind of just sort of hits a wall there, and life starts to really take a turn.
So no more yoga pants and tights.
No, no, you have to start like, yeah, exactly. And I think that's definitely, a mind shift for women, the changing body.
I know for me, as I mentioned to you, I have a number of friends, all my friends actually, who are women are over 40, and they some of them turned 40, let's say during the last 3 years when everyone was on lockdown, right?
Mhm.
So I remember one of my friends, she was like, Terrain, this is the quarantine 15 that I've gained.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think your metabolism's slowing down.
Yeah. It was really a lot of it happened during the COVID time because women weren't getting out moving. They were kind of, that is something too, not getting in their usual movement. And then the actual eating, the extra eating. And as we start to age, things start to happen with our blood sugar. We can't clear it out the way we used to. And that adds an extra layer of problems as well to, combat the issue of our metabolism. So it's just really, it's a difficult time for women that age of, 40, 45. It's a crunch time, really. I think things start to kind of snowball for us.
And the women that you're dealing with, is this, I know it's women mostly over 40 and maybe in their 30s are starting out, but
Mhm.
is this like women with like families, like women who are, let's say, post children, they're married, or is this like a combination of single women who may not have the quote unquote baby weight they're trying to deal with, or is this like single women as well as women who are in a relationship and they're trying to figure it out as well?
I think for me personally, I've had all walks. I've had women that are single and, or I've had a lot of women that are have just recently, found themselves divorced. So they're just recently single. They are dealing as a single parent. I have a lot of women that way too. Working women that just don't have a lot of time. And it's a lot of time issue. I'll be honest with you. The women that I deal with really they struggle with finding the time to meal prep, finding the time to work out, finding the actual their own specific blueprint or roadmap that they need to get to where they want to get to in a reasonable time. And that's the other thing. I think there's so many, quick fixes and fads and things out there. And we just want that instant gratification. And when it comes to weight loss, the healthy way is the best way. And that's really the way that it's going to be sustainable for them.
I remember there's a time, maybe about a year ago, I think, where I wanted to figure out the different personality types of people so I can navigate and maybe reach them where they are. And I think for a lot of people who are coaching or mentoring, such as yourself, me, and others, we always want to make sure that we're not giving them what we think is best, but necessarily what's giving them what is actually best for them. As you mentioned, right? There's a lot of fads out there. 60-day diet and you can have a butt like Kim Kardashian, right? Like build the booty, right?
Yeah.
So some of the women I work with now, they're older, they're in their 50s and their 60s.
Huh?
And the reason why I asked the question about single women and women who aren't single, I found that in my experience, the women who have been single a long time, they seem to be able to find a little bit more time to squeeze out of the day, right? Because they don't have the children, they don't have the husband, they don't have the spouse, and
Mhm.
things like that. So that's why when you mentioned the time, it brought me back to that because there's someone who I'm dealing with who's married, and she comes to me, she's like, Train, I don't have the time.
Mhm.
And then I was okay. Let's pull out one of my favorite things in the world, Google
Mhm.
Calendar. I
Yeah.
was like, let's track your time. And then she realized she had like 5, 6 extra hours during the day. I was like, once you're aware of the time, you can make better adjustments
Oh.
because our body, we only get one in this life.
Mhm.
And for you, Natalie, do you find maybe some difficulty helping the woman understand that there is enough time? We just have to make the time.
Oh, yeah. I think it's an easy, I don't want to say an excuse, but I do think it's something that they fall back on. And I love that you did that. I think I'm going to use that strategy, bring out the Google count so that it's like right in their face, this is how much time you actually really do have. And I think, they don't maybe want to use the time that they actually have because sometimes it's an inconvenient time, either really early in the morning, you may have to make that adjustment and get up a little bit earlier when everyone's asleep. especially for women that have those the children, or they have, hectic jobs and things like that. You may have to make a sacrifice. And that's what I think it is. I think it's, it's also that mind shift of, I have to make a couple different sacrifices. This is not going to be easy. Change isn't easy at all. It never is. And so putting yourself out into that, making yourself get uncomfortable is hard. It's hard stuff. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of excuses at times, but finding that, here is the time that you have, and this is what you need to do. And it's really at some point it becomes, it's the ball's in their court. You know what I mean? So you have to take it and run with it. If your end goal is something that you really, really want, here's all the tools, here's what I'm giving you. I'm here 100% to support you. But at some point, they have to internalize it and run with it. And I think that's always the sticking point.
I will agree, because I think I fell into that trap earlier on. Let's say maybe a couple of years ago, 5-6 years ago, I started to time myself on how much time I spent on social media, like Instagram when I had it and things of that nature. And there's a clock on there. For those listening, I don't know if you know, but every social media actually has a timer, how much time you spend on it per day. I was spending about 4 hours every day.
Yeah.
Scrolling.
Yeah.
And scroll, right? And I sat there, I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing? Because I can't even, there's no return on investment. Because,
yeah.
Right? I'm just
Like,
liking pictures, commenting, you look nice, things like that. It's a part-time job. Like, can you, like, how would you help me, if I was one of your clients, understand that, hey, you need to really get a hold of it and find out where you're, quote unquote, wasting time on less productive activities?
Yeah. Well, I actually tell them to write it into their, send me their schedule and write in when they are going to work out. Like, it is just, and it's not even just working out, that's part of it. But, what I teach them is like a 4-step process. It's meal planning, meal prepping. I do a lot of macro coaching. And then it's movement, trying to get them to really fit into how, what the movement's going to be for them. And then it's always trying to get them to figure out that why, what their why is. And I always make sure that it's something, a lot of people will be like, well, I'm going to have a wedding to go to, or, it's a family reunion, but I really want them to dig down deep. It has to be something extremely visceral that's going to get them moving. That's a whole nother thing. And then the other part is just really accountability and finding ways to keep them accountable. And I do a lot of one-on-one and check-ins with them. But getting back to what you said, in order for them to understand their time management, I definitely have them with any type of way that they want to set it up with me, but send me their schedule and fit in when, look at their week. It's done weekly. So, because everyone's week changes, whether they have kids and they're running them to wherever, their own type of job meetings or anything like that. So at weekly, they'll send me their calendar on a Sunday, and they'll block out the times that they're going to work out. And that's really just a way for me to keep them accountable, and a way for them to keep themselves accountable. And then again, within that whole scheduling system, it's, when are you going to find time to meal prep? When are you going to find time? I do a meal plan for them, but it's the whole prepping. It's going to the store and, making sure they have everything ahead of time for the week. So it's a lot of planning. And so that's really the part that I have to coach them in.
That was something that I struggled with, was the meal planning. Oh my goodness, let me tell you, Natalie, it was such a struggle for me. So what advice can you give me and everyone listening that's like, this is so tedious, I don't want to count my macros, but it's important? How would you help us?
So, for the macro counting, I have clients that like different ways. So I have a very anecdotal way that they can figure out their macros and keep it, just like a checklist. So it's not logging their food. It's not, doing all of this, crazy weighing or measuring. And then when I have clients actually do the tracking, I also teach them a way that, it's just portions with how they can use their hand to actually figure out their portions and their macros, and then making that more simple to log as well. But with the meal prepping and the way that I do it, especially with the meal plans that I have with them, I have them actually doing some repetition. So they're not making a million different dishes for the week. They're doing some repetition. So what they're eating for dinner, I have them also taking it for lunch, things like that. If they can do some quick shakes in the morning, I love shakes, are like perfect on the go. Having them do those sort of like frequently, or overnight oats. So I try to really teach them how they can do these things and create these meals that are going to be super simple, super easy, but there's a repetition. So you don't feel like you're you're spending your Saturday or Sunday cooking, and that you're able to do it in a way that's really efficient. So I think efficiency is key.
So would this be like a high protein, high energy shake in the morning to begin your day, something like that?
Yeah, I always make sure that there's protein's definitely, especially protein's great for everyone, but for women over 40, it's essential. And based on like the food pyramid and what they have us saying that we should have is nowhere near to the amount of protein that women in their 40s need to be eating and consuming. So yeah, protein first thing in the morning. I don't advocate fasting. I know people are like really into fasting. It's not something that I think is beneficial for women over 40. So that's just my own thing. So I definitely get protein in, and it is a high protein shake, but I'm not into the supplements either, but a protein supplement, something whey or a whey isolate, definitely have them doing that in the morning as well. But protein is a must for sure.
Yeah, that's something that I always felt was necessary. And I think many people will agree that start your day with that high energy, high protein.
Mm.
And I tried to do the supplements, and my body, I guess maybe because I don't eat meat, my body was just rejecting it.
Yeah.
Like the pills, and I think that's where you peak, right? Like all that. And
Yeah.
it made me feel heavy, but I know like a woman's body is a little bit different because let's say once a woman starts menstruating, there's
Mhm.
different things that they have to do to replenish their body because of that.
Yeah.
Do you coach towards that as well, or is it strictly just okay, women are past that and you're just looking to maintain what they currently have?
You know what? Most of the women that I work with, I have some that are younger. I have some that are in their 20s. So yeah, definitely. But most of them are in that like perimenopausal stage. So and then that, to be honest, is the worst stage possible because it's just the unknown, and you're experiencing so many different hormonal shifts, and your emotions are up and down, and you're bloated probably a lot more than you were previously when you're younger. That bloated period of time is, probably 3 weeks out of the entire month. And you're also dealing with, I have a lot of women that are dealing with gut issues. So as they're getting older, there's a lot of gut and inflammation issues. So I'm very cautious too about, again, with supplements, because that's something as well that can create more of those gut type. A probiotic and prebiotics, those are great. And those are things that I definitely advocate for in terms of like supplements for women during this perimenopausal time. But there's a lot of that too. So yeah, it's a balance. There's a lot of food allergies that start to develop too that they didn't have when they were younger. Some of them they become like lactose intolerant, and a lot of gluten issues. So it's a great time in our lives. But yeah, so lots of things happening.
So when you started to assist the women that you're assisting, what was your reason to get into this type of work and to see it to the end?
So I started actually because the whole exercise process, the whole nutrition process was kind of like a two-pronged thing. So the first was I was going through my own issues personally. I went through a divorce, so I had to, just for my own sanity and my own health and well-being, I started to work out and I started to exercise, and I really got into spinning, and I became a spin instructor. And I actually owned my own spin studio pre-COVID. And when then COVID happened and everything kind of went a little wonky there with the 6 feet apart, I couldn't get bikes and instructors. It was just a lot. So I ended up at that point, I had my certifications then, and then I ended up starting to do a lot of online coaching for women. And from there, I just started to do like group coaching. And, they started to get phenomenal results. They loved it. And I had like a community, a lot of Zooms, because that's, what we needed during that time of COVID. And that's really how I started the whole online coaching. And then from that part, I tweaked it and started to do, because at that, I started to see that women really needed more personalized and one-on-one attention. And then that's where I kind of drew into doing more one-on-one. But the cool thing was, in between then, I ended up getting another cert, which was a genetic-based cert. So I can actually offer genetic testing as part of their nutritional profile. So they actually can take a, swab of their mouth, it gets sent away, it comes back, and it's a whole genetic profile on how their body best metabolizes foods and different vitamins that they may be lacking or need, of food sensitivity issues, the best workouts for them. So it's a whole genetic programming. So that's kind of, that's from where I started, was my own struggles, my own personal issues, to, going all the way onto the online into this now.
I miss my spin class. The instructor was a woman and she was phenomenal, but she was like aggressive.
Yeah.
I think they are, right? In general, were you that type? Were you like the aggressive spin coach?
I think you have to be at some point. I think it's part of the, our studio, my studio was like kind of like a Soul Cycle. I don't know if you ever heard of Soul Cycle, but it was very, dark. It was rhythm-based riding. Yeah, it was a good time. Definitely fun.
And yeah, she used to say, especially when you're spinning and she's like, okay, stand up, and you'd rise, right? And then you go back down, then you tighten the resistance. I remember one person was like leaning to the side. They were trying their best to keep up. And she was European. And it reminds me of the Rocky movie. She's like, you will die on that bike. Like, if he dies, right? It was like that. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I found it funny, but I loved it.
Yeah, it is. It's like a love-hate relationship. I think it's almost like, I always think it's like giving birth. Like, you just forget about it. Like when you're doing it, it's like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. But then it's like, when it's over, it's like, nature's way of making you have more kids. You just completely forget about it. I feel like that is like a spin class.
Yeah, you're right. It's like one of those moments where it's a struggle when you're going through it. But then afterwards you have this like a sense of accomplishment, and you're like, I did that. I created life.
Yeah.
I was able to do that, right? So how do you keep the women you work with motivated day to day, week to week, month to month when you're assisting them?
Yeah, that's always that's a big challenge. And I think that's where the one-on-one coaching comes in with them. So I meet with them weekly. I have an app so I can look at all their stuff in their app. They record everything. We communicate back and forth through the app. But then every week we get on a Zoom, just like this. And I go over their challenges with them, things that they may need to change around. And it's just really a nice 15, 30-minute session. I kind of call it like a download. They kind of download their issues and their challenges, and then we construct another plan for them. So it's always, revisiting, always connect. It's a lot of connecting, almost to the point where I become part of their, like their friend, really, their counselor at some point. That's really what it turns into as well, because, I'm dealing with a lot of the issues that they may be having, the challenges that they're facing within their life, that they have to navigate through in order to get to where they want with their health and their wellness. So it's a lot of one-on-one.
Are there any commonalities when it comes to challenges that this demographic of women face that you deal with?
Yeah, I really, it's again, a lot of the hormonal challenges with them, of what they're feeling, the fatigue, like I said before, their gut issues, time management. Time management is constant. It's a constant thing. Very high. I have some women that have a very high demanding jobs. They work from home, but they're on Zoom constantly all day. So that seems to be really the sticking point. And I will tell you, just mindset, motivation. And it really, I try and talk to them a lot about even just the working out. It's really, they have to really try to change the mindset around working out as being something enjoyable that they're doing for their body and their mind. And they have to find something that, like you said, you love to spin. It's not everybody loves it. You have to find something that you love and realize it's not supposed to be something awful. You can't look at it as an awful experience because you're never going to want to do it. It has to be something that you look forward to. So it could be something as easy as walking, just being able to just get out and move. But it's just getting their mind, changing around that subject. And so mindset, mind shift is a lot too, as well.
I know many women will say that one of the struggles they have when it comes to time, because they always try to find the time, but I think women by nature are givers, right? They'll give their time to everyone and then they look around, they're like, I don't have time for myself. Is that something that you have to help them balance with as well? Like the demands of their job, family, and then trying to keep their own cup full?
Yeah. Because I think as women, we also feel guilty. We also feel guilty that we are, and I do it for myself too. We feel guilty that we are saying no to someone. We have to learn to set the boundaries. And I try and teach them that there is a boundary that you have to set, and you have to make everyone aware in your family ahead of time that this is something that I'm doing, and this is something that I need to do for myself so that I can be a better spouse, a better parent, a better sibling, whatever it may be, coworker, but you have to set that boundary there, and you need to make sure that you set that time for yourself and try to, for the most part, I tell them that it needs to just be 30 minutes for that workout. That's all it has to be. 30 minutes is huge for your health and for your wellness. And so if you can just devote 30 minutes and it's the right program for you, you're going to see amazing results in that little bit of time. So, 30 minutes there. And then I also tell them 30 minutes for, also getting their meal prepping together too, one Sunday or Saturday.
I used to work at a law firm, and this is when I realized the importance of time and time management. I went to school for law clerk and then paralegal, and I was working at this law firm, immigration law firm. And the main lawyer is a small firm. He used to tell me that he's missed family birthdays, the birthdays of his children, anniversaries, and things of that nature. And what he did, even though I guess it's a compromise that probably many women wouldn't accept, but his wife accepted it. For them to see each other often enough during the week, he got her to work there as like a secretary part-time.
Oh,
Right? That's how apart they were. Right?
Wild.
It is. And I'm looking at him, I'm fresh out of college university, so I'm like 21, 22, right? And he's telling me this story, and he's like, he's had to postpone vacations. He's like, his children are growing up and he doesn't really know them. And he was saying that if he can do it all over, he would have chose a different career. And he said, make sure, because I used to have conversations with him how I wanted to start my own family. And he said, make sure this is what you want to do, because there's going to be a lot of nights where you're alone in your firm. You're going to miss birthdays. You're going to miss vacations. You're going to miss sports teams. You're going to miss all these events. Even though you're thinking that you're the best father in the world because you're providing a lifestyle for them, you're not giving them what a lot of people value, and that's time.
Absolutely.
And time is very, very important. When you were going through what you're going through and now you're helping your clients, did you have to understand the importance of time to help others understand it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had to find ways to, my children were young then. They were 6 and 10, so they were young. So I still needed to I would take them to they had like a daycare like a childcare at the gym. I had to make sure I found a gym that had childcare, it was for an hour. And I remember them just like, oh, you have to go to the daycare. And I did feel badly about it at the moment that I was doing it. But then I knew that I had to do this for myself. In order for me to be better for them, I had to do this for myself. I had to take the hour to do the spin class, because that was or to do the weight training class, because I needed that. So I had to create that boundary, and I had to I put that time in my schedule, and I knew that it was something that they weren't going to like, but I had to not feel guilty about that, because at some point, I knew me being the better person mentally was going to be better for them. So, and that was the way that I was going to get there, was going to be, through exercise. And that's what I did. So, yeah. So I try to do that for women, and try and show them that too, as well.
Looking back at how far you've come from that person, Natalie, to where you are today, are you surprised at where you are looking back?
Yeah, I think I am surprised. Absolutely. It was a long, difficult journey, a lot of challenges, and then throwing COVID in there. And like I said, there was, I was a different person. I was much more quiet. I was much more reserved. I would never have gone up on a podium and been a loud spin instructor. It was kind of like I was a different person when I would get up there than what I was. People would come up to me, they'd be like, I would never expect you to be that same person. So it was a way, an outlet for me too, when I started doing that as well. But that brought out another side, another confidence to me that, I would not have had if I didn't take those steps. So yeah, and that kind of really pushed me over to the other side, I think.
I love hearing stories where the person, when they're trying to find themselves, they're like this more quiet and low key person. Because by the time I speak to them, right, they're so confident, they're so well spoken, they can stand in front of everyone, right? They
Yeah.
can go to like the highest mountain in the world and tell their story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if you could do that, what would be the story that you'd want to tell everybody?
The story that I would want to tell people is if you're not happy, I guess it's not so much a story, but more like a moral kind of, so if you're not happy in your current situation, and you're afraid that to take the step outside of your current social situation because you think it's just going to make things worse, it's not. You will face challenges, you will overcome, but when you get to the other side, you're going to be so much happier and so much stronger for doing that. And the people around you are going to see that too, as well. And it's going to be better for it. If you do have children, it's going to be better for them as well. And to not make it feel so, because I think as women, we feel that guilt, and to not feel guilty for wanting to be happy and wanting to change your circumstances.
So as we close, Natalie, what advice would you want to give the next generation of women who are approaching 40 and they want to make sure that, Natalie, I kind of like my yoga pants.
Yeah.
What advice do you want to give to them to help them along the way and make sure that they're as healthy and as comfortable as possible?
Yeah, I would say, keep your yoga pants. Definitely keep them. And there is a place for them on your body, and no one should tell you not to wear them. And you should wear them, as proudly as you can. But honestly, I think we women feel like it's useless, right? I hit this age, everything's going downhill. It's, there's no point in this. I'm just going to go, eat the donut or whatever. And to tell you can eat the donut. There is a time and a place to eat the donut, but prioritize strength training. Start to do some tracking just to see where you are with your food. People are so surprised. Women are so surprised when they track. And it's a lot of times they're not even eating enough. And that's another issue of why they're actually gaining weight. They're not actually even eating enough food, and they're just plateauing their metabolism even more. So track, see where you are, see where you are with your protein, and to start to do some 30 minutes of strength training. Try to get some weights in so you're starting to increase your muscle mass, because that will just help with your metabolism. Because a lot of times it's not your hormones that's the problem, it's the hormones that's causing the muscle to decline, and then your metabolism.